Okay, so the meditation practices. So if you feel like you would like to do a practice, even though you know it's not a practice, the two that I recommend is the mindfulness of breathing and sitting in the I am. So the mindfulness of breathing is basically counting your breath. So every time you breathe in, you count 1 in ascending numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to number 10. So 1, 2, and up you go to number 10. And when you get to number 10, you come back to number 1 again, and you just keep doing that. It's a really beautiful exercise. You might notice that you get up to 290 and then you're like, oh, I was only meant to go to 10. This is what's interesting. Your mind goes into automatic and just does it. So this is where it trains you to just stay focused on the breath. The other exercise is moving your attention into I am. Now, some of you might not know what the I am is, so maybe it's better to do the mindfulness of breathing. But if you know what the I am is, this initial sense of being, this I am, like not I am James or I am Karen or I am Rebecca, like I am before that, this initial sense of being. And you just keep repetitively moving your attention into that. So you could say moving your attention into presence. But know that all of this is happening by a functioning of the mind that feels like you, this separate entity that's living inside the body. But notice that even when you're doing this exercise, there is something that's conscious of the one that's doing the exercise. So that one that's doing the exercise can't actually be inherently who you are, because it's being witnessed. So there's something behind that witnessing it. So there's something that's prior to it that knows it. So that one that's saying, I am meditating, I am doing this, and I'm moving my attention to the moment, can't actually be the experiencer, because it's being experienced. So experiencer can't be experienced, the experiencer is experiencing. So the experiencer can't look at itself. Isn't that fantastic? Es ist fantastisch. Okay, we can begin. Let me just check that everything is running as it should be. Excellent connection. Yes, very good. My microphone is working. Very good. We are all set. Yes. Okay. We start now. Sorry if that was a little shocking. Going okay. You're sitting meditating. I just realised I need to get my power adapter. Excuse me. Okay, see. So, what is the title today for today's talk? Let's have a look. The title is, it's something about stories. The title is How Stories Create Your World. How Stories Create Your World. That is the title. So, what most of society think, and I'm sure not you guys here because you have gone into the depths of the nature of reality, but a lot of people in society believe that the stories that we tell ourselves about society, about friends, about relationships, about this world, about our environment, are actually some form of fact. That they actually belong with the world and they depict what it is to be alive. But as you get more and more into this subject, you begin to question if what you tell yourself is actually real. And what you begin to learn is that there is nothing that is real. Like everything that you believe to be fact, like that these are chairs, that this is a human, that this is Lisa, that this is a computer, that this is a dog, that this is a wall, that this is a room, that you're on a planet spinning on a ball around a sun in a galaxy, that these aren't facts. They're simply stories that we tell ourselves as humans in order to create something called society. But they're not actually depicting the way the world is. And maybe even some people that are into spirituality and into this subject still believe that their stories have some reality. There are two different types of stories that we tell ourselves. Conscious stories, so stories like, I'm going down to the shop, I have a husband, I have children, I have a dog, I like the colour blue, I don't like the colour pink, I like walking, I don't like bike riding, whatever it is. So these are like conscious stories. And then we've got unconscious stories that are happening. And unconscious stories are stories that are kind of in our body and in our unconscious. So they say that makes up something like 90% of our experience. And to me, what that is that our body is responding to something, but we're not actually conscious of that response, but it's having an impact on us, our experience. So you most probably are having unconscious reactions to me, so that you're not conscious of. And the way that you can kind of become conscious of that is through feelings, because your feelings depict that. So maybe I remind you of your mother, which is often the case. I often feel like that seekers are attracted to non-duality teachers that are either like their mother or father. And so maybe I remind you of your mother, so there's some sort of unconscious desire there, like wanting attention, or there's like a cat would be. It's okay, Ee. It's okay, Beauty. Is it Andy? Is Andy coming back? Huh? You don't need to bark though. And just in that interaction between me and Khaleesi, there'll be some people that are like, oh, but there'll some people that will annoy. But you might not even have any conscious thoughts that are saying this is annoying. It just might arise in your body like a slight tension or annoyance or a slight joy. And these unconscious thoughts have huge impact on our daily experience. This is kind of law of attraction, like these are directing your body in particular ways, but you're not conscious of it. But it's not an independent body acting. It's kind of, everything moves together. It's kind of really amazing. So you have like a repulsion towards me and then the body moves away, but you could kind of see it like a dance of energies happening. There's nothing personal in any of it. And without one thing moving, another thing doesn't move. So it's kind of like all connected, which is really amazing. It's like more intelligent than we can possibly comprehend. Yeah, and there's so many weird scientific discoveries that reflect this back. Like if you look at quantum physics, like the idea that everything is all possibilities until it's actually looked at. So until something observes it, it's all potential possibilities, which is crazy. And then there's another theory, I don't think it's quantum physics, but another theory that is that once two atoms interact, they continuously, so until the end of time, which is never, they affect each other's movements. I've forgotten the name of that again now. This is again like, what? Yeah, what? It's really divine, but so much is happening beyond what we could possibly tell ourselves. And you can see by the fact that us as humans can't perceive the complexities of the arising of everything, that our stories that we tell ourselves are going to be limited, so of course they cannot be fact. And you can also perceive that by if you think about science again, that if you got out even though you call me a human, if you got out a microscope and you kept going in and in further to this body, you'd never actually find the edge of my body. So you'd never actually find this body, this thing that you call Lisa. You'd find smaller and smaller things. So it'd go into skin and then to blood and then to bone and then to muscle and then to atoms maybe and quarks and then eventually nothing, which is really miraculous that you can never actually get to anything. It just appears like it. So this appears like wood. And then you can go through a whole spectrum of thing that begins as tree, then to wood, then to bed. And there's a bed sitting in front of me. And then to, I don't know what you get inside of wood. Water, maybe. And then smaller and smaller particles. Like you can never actually define one thing. We only think we can, and we tell ourselves stories about that. And so what we do is then we breed humans. So then the next generations, the younger generations, begin to grow, to form concepts, believing that what they're told about the world is actually the world, where it's just an abstract portrayal that humans use to communicate to each other. And so what does that mean for you and suffering? What that means is that everything you tell yourself about yourself and your problems and what makes you uncomfortable can't possibly be true. So if you think that you've fucked up your life, that can't possibly be true. A lot of people suffer over regret. That can't actually be true, because if we're saying that no words actually depict what's happening, then how could that possibly be true? There's a very simplistic idea that's kind of got embedded in your system through repetition. And it's the same with the idea of you, like anything that you believe about yourself. Like, firstly, what would be this self? Like, has anyone ever found a self? Like this self called Lisa or Anne or Roger, has anyone ever found it and got it and been like, that is what the self looks like? We never actually find the self. We never find the controller of this body, the one that's like, move the hand up here, move the hand up here. When we look into it, we begin to find that nothing is separate, so that everything is affecting everything else, and that you can go in infinitely. like fractals, so you can keep going infinitely inwards into anything that we call an object or we call matter, and then eventually get to something that's undetectable in this universe, so no thing. Which is wonderful, because it means that everything that you think about yourself and think about your life and believe in is totally turned onto its head, that's not reality. And this thing called a self, in which you suffer so much about, like what people think about you, what you think about other people, the way in which your life is going, what you've done, what you're going to do, isn't the way it is. It also means that everybody's inherently innocent, but because it's happening way beyond anybody's control, which is also deeply relaxing, because everyone always feels a bit guilty, like the original sin when becoming identified. So if you look at it in the Adam and Eve story, so when Eve ate the apple of knowledge, she instantly became aware of her own nakedness and was embarrassed and ashamed. And the original sin is this sense of guilt for your sin. So it's this guilt for the way you are, which isn't true. It's not, animals don't have guilt for the way that they are. They don't feel ashamed for being naked or for farting in public. Whereas humans have this guilt that they've done something wrong, that it's under their control, which it isn't. That's the story that you're telling yourself. How can anything be under your control when we can't understand anything? When scientists haven't discovered the nature of functioning, the nature of this life, like where it began or where it ends or how it happens. So how can that simplistic thought that it's under my control, that I am the controller, be the truth? It's simply a story that you've been taught by your parents and that you've become to believe, that you are an entity that lives inside this body, separate from the whole of life, and that you've got to live a good life, a moral life, a life that has meaning. And that others are guilty and that you're guilty. But who? Who is this I and you? Who? Who let the dogs out? Who? Who? So the biggest story that we tell ourselves is that we are somebody experiencing a world that is separate from us. So we're somebody inside the body experiencing a world that is separate from us. But that's something that you're imagining. That's not actually your experience. So your experience now isn't that you're looking at me. That's a story which is being experienced. If you go beyond that, you'll see that there's something that's experiencing which isn't contained inside words, that you can't capture in an idea, in an image. It's simply experiencing, and it's not a thing, and yet it's all things. It's not separate from the sky, the clouds, the curtains, the light, the bed, the carpet. Like it's not separate. That's so special to know that, to remember that. And it's everybody's inherent birthright. This is what I loved about non-duality, is it's not about wealth or effort or what you do or don't do or how good or how bad you are. It's everybody's inherent birthright. That who you are is free of all descriptions. It's infinite possibility. That's all you've ever wanted, is infinite possibility. When you remember childhood, what we often remember in childhood is playing and just being totally in awe and at wonder of this thing called life. We might not think of it like that, but it's that sense of anything's possible. And that's what we had in childhood, which we miss as we get older, because as we get older, we begin to think things aren't possible. And that's and the more we think things aren't possible, the more small you become. But that's your true nature. Actually, what was happening in childhood is it's not that you had the thought anything's possible and then you felt amazing. It's that your feeling of being who you are is infinite possibilities. And then that gets translated into words. And this is what we often love about creativity, about playing with someone, about making up new things, about doing new things, is this adventurous sense of anything's possible. Anything is possible. And everything is unknown. The fact that you know that you're going to be alive tomorrow in a way squashes this moment right now. Like it's a story you're telling yourself. For what? For what reason? Why? It has an effect, a bizarre effect. It's okay to think that, like you're going to be alive tomorrow because you need to plan and stuff, but it also has a deadening effect. There's something else so mysterious happening here that there's beyond all concepts. And the more that becomes exposed and stops being hidden, because it seemingly gets hidden by this contraction, this energetic contraction and identification with a person. And the more that gets exposed, the more freedom that seems to come in the apparent life. So in your life. It doesn't mean that there aren't problems. It's just natural to come up against problems because that's the flow of things. Like everything grows and is destroyed and grows and destroyed and grows and destroyed. So it doesn't mean problems don't occur, but the person seems to get less attached to itself and the problems. And then there's this expansion back into a freedom that's beyond anything that ever happens. This knowing that no matter what happens in the game, that you, who you truly are, is never affected. And this isn't intellectual. So it might sound intellectual, like I'm teaching you something. This is experiential. Like who is experiencing right here, right now? Who? Who let the dogs out? Who? It was me. I let the dogs out. Okay, that's enough of the rant of Lisa. And I shall ask some questions. I think I feel like taking some calls today. I haven't done that for a while. It's always a mixed bag taking calls. Like the good thing, because you don't know what you're getting. Like if I did a live talk with the audience, you kind of have a sense of someone, you know what you're getting. Not that I'm being judgmental on people, but sometimes people's energies are super intense when they they've been sitting there and then suddenly they're live and you know, and if I was doing a live talk, if I could see that somebody's energy is like really intense, I might not ask them a question, like let them ask a question, because I know that it like might veer off topic, or it'd be better if I just had a one-to-one with that person rather than a one-to-one session, rather than do it in public, because it gets too out of control. But when you do it through the internet, you have no sense of that. So somebody can suddenly come on with like this big explosion of energy. But I feel like taking some questions, even saying that. So if you would like to speak, after I've said that, I've most probably put everyone off. If you'd like to speak, then make sure you have a headset and good internet connection and just send me a message. Saying I would like to talk. And also if I don't read your question or if I don't speak with you, it's not personal. I get lots of different questions. Hi Thomas. Hi Dam Morda. And if I get your name wrong, it's not personal as well. Bonjour Nick. Bonjour Nick. Hello, Izzy. Hi, Michael. Just see if anyone. Hi, Fatima. Good to see you. Hi, Lola. Hi, Joanna. Oh, Joanna. Hi, Siri. Hi, Live. Hi, Robin. Okay, there's no one that wants to call in. Hey, Anu. So I just read questions. Hi, Lisa. And sometimes if I don't answer your question, just send it again, because like what I've done now, I've taken all the red dots off it, so I might miss it. It's a little confusing sometimes reading all the messages. Getting it all right. Hi, Anka. Hi, Lisa. So happy to hear you. Hi, Michaela. I called you Michael again. Michaela. My partner told me how to say that. He's also German. Michaela. 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 I'm sure it's something like that. Would you say it's your life task to teach? No. How and when did you know that you should become, or that you are determined to be, a non-dual teacher? After the I and all the stories have fallen away? Or did you already think about that before? Thanks for answering this question. Hi, Michael. Oh, sorry, Michaela. No, I certainly do not see it as my life ambition to teach at all. No. So that's a no. I never, ever imagined that I would be a non-dual teacher. And even my teacher, Roger, who some of you watch, told me that I would never be a teacher because I wasn't clear. Not clear like with awakening and stuff, but clear intellectually, that my mind is too creative and the way I describe things is too chaotic. And I just believed what he said. Like, I was like, yeah, fair enough. I do dart from this issue to that issue. Like I'm not logical, I'm more creative. And I didn't take it as an insult. I was like, fair enough. And I used to really enjoy being with Roger, because he would do the teaching and I would sit there and listen, and I could just like chill. There was no pressure on me to have to answer anyone's questions or do anything. So no, I never saw that, and I really don't like being the center of attention in public. I tend to veer towards more being in the background, and so I find it a little uncomfortable sometimes when I'm teaching, not when I'm teaching like sitting like on the stage and teaching, but more afterwards, like if you're doing an event and sitting like in a group and then everyone begins to focus on you, I'd be like, so, and I used to really enjoy that about Roger. Like, we'd go anywhere and like he was such a talker that wherever we went, he would take over and I wouldn't have to do anything. I could just, like chip in whenever I felt like it. There was like no focus on me to have to do anything. So no, there was no interest in that. I feel like a little bit I got tricked into teaching. That sounds really weird. Like life, it kind of like got pushed onto me. And so in the beginning, when I started uploading videos and started talking to my friend, it was just like a passion of my heart. Like it wasn't about teaching. There wasn't an imagination that other people were listening. It was just like my heart wanted to explode with love, and it felt like it needed to let it out verbally. I don't draw art. There was just this explosion wanting to come out of love, and it felt like making love to people. And then it became popular, and then it just kind of became a thing, and then people kept inviting me, and I kept thinking that I wanted to do something else, but because I kept getting invited, I wanted to set up like a dog walking business and like an animal business, and because people kept inviting me and the way it was set up, I couldn't set up the other business because I was traveling a lot. And so then it happened. But there's many variations to that story. So in the beginning, it wasn't like I wanted to teach. It was just that my heart was like bursting. It was so, I couldn't believe it, that life could be, like I'd searched for so many years and I'd seek for so many years, and I had this massive explosion and saw life so differently, and I just couldn't believe it. It was so wonderful. But it wasn't really about teaching people as such. In the first couple of years, like there was an interest to see like what effect it did on me, and interest to see like go in that direction. But then I wanted to go off and work with animals. So it was something that kind of happened, and I feel like I got pushed into it by life. But it was never an intention. But now I do it, and that I've been doing it now for nearly 10 years. I just love it, and I'm so happy that life pushed me in that way. Like I can't imagine a better job. Like it's such an amazing job being able to speak about this with people, and doing one-to-one sessions with people, and doing public talks. I think that that's my least favorite, doing public talks. I like it in the moment when I'm doing it, but I don't like all the socializing so much afterwards. I don't like being the center of attention. It's not so comfortable for me. Yeah. So that's kind of happens. There must have been, I think deep down, there's like a deep desire in me, which I wasn't conscious of before I started teaching, to express love. And I think this is the way this body does it, is speaking about non-duality. It's like an expression of love. And so that's why I attracted it towards myself, but I didn't actually initially think of it and imagine it in this way. And I think that I'm a more energetic love teacher than I am like an intellectual clarity teacher. Like you get different ones. So someone like Rupert or Roger are more about clarity intellectually, and this energetic presence, which is really beautiful. Whereas for me, I feel like it's more like love, like it comes from here. Like when I sit in silence in the beginning, I'm waiting for it to erupt here. Like it's not like I'm sitting there thinking, like, what am I going to say? I try to drop in ideas to get myself going. It's like, woo. Well, yeah, and it was after a big energetic shift that I started teaching. Like this, when I was 31, I had a big, oh no, maybe I was 30 actually. Yeah, I think I was 30. When I was 30, I had this big energetic shift, and I started teaching when I was 31, but like, so, yeah. And I don't feel qualified. I don't feel enlightened. I don't feel not qualified, and I don't feel not enlightened. I just don't feel or think about those things. It seems a silly thing to think about. And I don't think that I've got an eye or not got an eye, like, or seeking or not seeking. Like I'm open to the possibility that those stuff could still be happening. Like, I find it so hard to know where I am. The only thing that I can claim is that this thing happened when I was 30, and it never seems to leave. Like it's always there, but my character still has issues and still goes through things. And yeah. And in the beginning, it wasn't so obvious that the character was still going through things and changing, because I changed so much overnight like this on the human level. So it was unclear to see that, like, everything felt so empty and blown away. But there are still issues that come up. Like, the more that you interact with life, you do business and you have relationships, the more that things come up. And I don't know what that is, if that's selfing or if that's seeking or not. The way I phrase it to people is I say that it's like old seeking patterns or old habits, and it endlessly expands. But even that, I mean, who knows at the end of the day? We just know we're here, and all of these words are like an attempt to put experience into a form of communication, but we can't at the end of the day. And I don't know what other people's experiences are. Like, yeah. So I don't know if that helps. Maybe you're thinking about teaching, or something like that. And my perspective on it is that all these like ideas that anybody has about anything, like that you need to have had a certain amount of experiences in order to teach, or you don't need to, or you need to be like this, or you need to be like that, is all mind stuff. Like, I'm of the belief that you could have like a really unenlightened teacher and there could be freedom. It's all about the attitude of the apparent student. Like life is your teacher, not a person. So all these things you don't need to get involved in, like it will happen or not. Like, to me, the best way in which to act on the human level is to move towards that which makes you expand, which is quite obvious, really. So if it makes you feel expanded to teach, then that feels like the right thing to do. As long as you know what I mean by expanded, like that you open up. Like, it feels logical, because that's the way the whole of life is working. Like, everything is constantly expanding. The universe is expanding, things are expanding, evolution is expanding and becoming more complex. And I feel like the best way in which we can be on the human level is to move towards that which makes us expand, which isn't easy because it goes against logic. It goes against good and bad, and it goes against what other people deem as right or wrong. It's like coming out of the mind and going more to the sensation and the experience. Yes. And I would say that teaching makes me feel expansive. It can be difficult sometimes because, like, you're talking with people that are really suffering, so that can be sad. But like, overall, I'd say it makes me feel really expansive talking about it, especially when I talk about like really hardcore non-duality. That's my real passion. Yes. And just remember, nothing really matters. It's not really serious. Okay, thank you for your question. Hi, Robin. Hi, Lisa. The storm of anxiety cramps in my body and mind is so heavy that I can't see that this is it. Pardon me. Every second is an anxiety attack. Don't know what to do. I've tried so much. Hey, Robin. I'm sorry to hear that. This is more of a like therapeutic thing that you need to go into rather than non-duality. Like, listen to non-duality at the same time, because non-duality is the absolute truth. but it sounds like you need to do some therapies on the body, that your body is, and your brain is going into like the fight-flight response, like you maybe have PTSD, or this could be lots of different reasons. The chakras could be out of balance. But when your body's in that, you need to just like calm the body down, because like you say, there's not even room to listen to non-duality when you're constantly in a state of fear. Like the fear is so engulfing. Like, so of course the person comes in is like desperate to get away from the fear. So my advice would be to go towards therapies. If you go onto my website under references, it has different therapies that you could look into and investigate. Yes. All the best to you. Thanks, Robin, for your question. Hi, Leve. Live, sorry, not Leve. My reading sometimes. Hi, Lisa. You spoke before about feeling in the chakras. How long do you recommend to stay at one place till you feel something is happening or changing? I find it's difficult to sit long enough. I don't really have a time. I just giving it some space. You don't really need to wait for it to change, because it might not change. You can sometimes sit there and then transform it into the positive. Sometimes you can sit there too long. I don't really have a direct answer for you. If you can't tell, I'm more like go with the flow than I am more like do this or do that, because in the end I don't know what works or what doesn't work. With the chakra stuff, I know from myself it had a profound effect on my body, and I know from the people I work with it can have a profound effect, but it's different for everybody. The problem is when you do it, and when you judge yourself doing it, you're judging yourself doing it through one of your chakras. And if you've got the solar plexus off balance, the solar plexus might be in you're doing it wrong, this is wrong, that is wrong, you should be doing something else, why you need to do it longer, you don't need to do it longer. And then that distorts the whole experience of it, and then you believe that's true. So it's when you're doing it, you've got to become really conscious of what your energy is unconsciously saying. That sounds really complicated. So you can't often hear a voice that's telling you you're doing something wrong. You have to become very sensitive to the body to realize that you're in a state of feeling like you're doing something wrong. And so therefore, when you sit there, you're doubting yourself the whole time and seeing that as another chakra issue. That on the human level, everything is chakras being activated or deactivated. That they're in the positive or the negative, and then certain thoughts are being produced. And then in all of that, so in all the chakras and all the discomfort and the fear and the anxiety and the love and the peace, there's something experiencing it that's not affected by anything. There's something that's really vast, that's always been there, that's never left, that's so free. What is that? What is it that's experiencing? That what's here that's still, that's never moved? And that everything's seemingly moving in it, that's beyond what you think, that's beyond what you know, that's beyond any idea, that's only ever present. It never goes into time comes and goes in it. It never leaves. You can't get away from yourself. You can't get away from this awakeness, this consciousness. Wherever you run to in this world, it's always there. This is the freedom. This is all you ever sought. What happens is your chakras go into the negative, and you seek to run away from the pain of it, or your chakras go into the positive, and you seek to maintain the pleasure of it. And you're completely deluded by the thoughts, the images, the stories, and the feelings that are appearing, and believing that that's you, that they're real, that that's your life. Well, what is it that never leaves, that's always here? This is the freedom. This is the perfect, brilliant stillness. Satchit Ananda. Satchit Ananda. Hello, Lisa. When this body dies, doesn't the consciousness die along with it? What remains? Hey, Shizri. Well, you know, that's a very existential question. Consciousness is never born and never dies. But if you really investigate this, you'll see that there is no consciousness. There is only life. So then the next saying is, there's nothing that's born and there's nothing that dies, and that life is experiencing itself. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Hello, Lola.
Right here.
I don't know what you say. Hi, Fatima. Hi, Anik. Hi, Lisa. Love your videos on non-duality so much. Love you. Oh, I love you, Anik. You're the best. Oh, thanks. Enjoy. It's sweet. But remember that anything you see and experience on the ultimate level is always yourself. So if you're resonating with what I'm saying, your mind gives you the information that it's Lisa, but actually there's just love appearing, and that love is yours, it's you. This is what our mind does, and then it wants that object. It goes, that's Lisa, I want that object, or that's the drink or the food, I want that object, which is nothing wrong with that. That's just a thought, but it's seeing beyond that, that actually what's appearing is love, which is yourself. Like, so as you watch it and you enjoy it, like when I was younger, I so easily fell in love with things, and I always believed that they were something outside of me, like that I was in love with them. So I'd fall in love with a TV character or with a toy that I had, and I thought that it was outside of me and that was this thing out there. And then you begin to realize that that's your own love arising. It's just that that object is representing that love in you. It's never outside of you. It's like when you love an external object, it's actually you're loving yourself. It's just that your ideas about who you are and what is you and what is other are distorted. Hello, Jonah. How are you? I am Brazilian. I am English. So sorry about my English. It's not so good. I'm sure it is very good. It's quite something speaking another language, and I really, really respect it. I have a question. Can you talk about aggressivity in, I can't say this word because my videos get banned because Google is suppressing stuff about this. I know it sounds like I'm such a conspiracy theorist, but it's not. I know it from what happened when I did talk about it. And then I looked it up about other people, bloggers. So what Jonah is saying is, can you talk about aggressivity in what we're experiencing at the moment, where we all have to stay in our own homes? So the word that she's using begins with QU. So when we're in our own homes and unable to go out so much. I feel I'm becoming more aggressive and I'm feeling guilty because of this. I had a terrible fight with my boyfriend, then we broke up. Yes. More than likely what's happening in you is that normally in your day-to-day life, you're relying on activities and events and scenarios in order to bring you more peace and to exert energy. Whereas nothing brings you more peace. So it's just that your chakras have got used to exerting energy in a certain way by going out, by doing things, by seeing different people. And when you're left to yourself, your chakras don't know where to put that energy. So it just gets projected onto your environment and it creates moods and mood instability. Like, I'm not claiming to have the perfect moods. I have arguments with my boyfriend. Me and Khaleesi sometimes have words. That's my dog. But overall, it becomes a sense. I don't want to speak about myself so much, because as soon as I go and say something about myself, it goes and contradicts. I'll go and have a fight with my boyfriend tonight. It's always the way. So but basically, when you really realize that there's nothing in the flow of life that brings you happiness but this consciousness that you are, when that's really seen and really known, then you stop looking for the external world to give you anything. So you don't need life to release energy in you to change your chakras. So often what we're doing, like, so say if we don't feel good enough, we'll go and do something that makes us feel good enough. So say we don't feel good enough and we're really good at like Tai Chi, maybe we go to a class in Tai Chi and everyone like thinks that you're good enough. And this picks up your chakra, and so it changes your energy and transforms your energy. Or you go and see friends and that makes you feel loved, and there's a part of you that doesn't feel loved, then you go and see your friends, you feel loved, and then it picks up that positivity in that chakra. But when you're in close confinement, this is why a lot of teachers do retreats, and why when you're shut down, you're not allowed to do your regular activity, those chakra energies can come up and be really seen for what they are, that there is a belief that you're not good enough or that you're unlovable. Aggressivity, so anger, tends to come from the solar plexus chakra, and the solar plexus chakra in the positive is a feeling like you can do it, you can conquer things, that anything's possible. This feeling like that you can conquer life, like that you know what you want, that you know how to get it. It's a feeling of free will, even though there obviously is no free will when you really examine it, but it's that feeling of that you have the ability to affect your environment. In the negative, it's a sense of hopelessness, despair, powerlessness, stuckness, the sense that you can't do it, that you're trapped, anger, frustration, rage. And what happens when the chakra is out of balance is it can get excessive or depleted. And so when it's excessive, it's like an overachiever. And when it's depleted, it can go into like this aggressivity, this depression, this frustration, this anger. So it's just working on that chakra and seeing the illusions of it, and seeing how in your life you use that chakra and you use things in this life to make that chakra feel better or to relieve tension. And you've just got to see through the illusion of it, that it's not true. And just seeing through the illusion of it will begin to balance it. To me, freedom isn't balancing all your chakras. Like I can have disbalanced chakras. That's something that most probably evolves when you've seen who you truly are, so that evolves and expands more. But the true freedom is recognizing who you truly are, which is the experiencer beyond all things. But it most probably improves the chakras. Like you begin to see the bullshit of them, that you don't need to do something in order to be happy. Happiness is your innate nature. It's here, it's what's watching. But what the person believes, what the seeker believes, is that by being loved, it's not a conscious thing, but by being loved, by doing things, by achieving lots of things, you will become free. You will get happiness. So you most probably took that out on your boyfriend to an extent. That this frustration of feeling stuck, of feeling powerless, feeling trapped, and then you saw him as someone that was doing that to you. That's what we always do. We always project it outwards as him. He's doing it to me. He made me feel like. So you feel stuck in the house, and then you feel like your infinite possibilities is taken away. So by them not doing the washing up, it's making you feel more claustrophobic, and then whereas it's just washing up. It doesn't matter doing it or not doing it. Like it doesn't take or give away. It doesn't. I'm not also saying that he shouldn't do the washing up, like that you've got to become like some like Zen Buddha, like doing all the shitty jobs, like cleaning the toilet, scrubbing skid marks off the underwear, doing all this washing up. Sometimes that happens in processes of waking up, that you do these types of things. It's like meant to be good for the ego. I did it. With my teacher, I used to do all his washing, clean his skid marks, his cleaning, everything. It's really humbling for the ego that's like wanting to be important or better than these jobs. But it's not the goal of it. Like it's okay for him to do the washing up and for you to tell him, like, I need you to do the washing up, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't know if that helps. Thanks, Jonah, for your question. Hi, James. Hi there. Are you doing calls today? Yes. Just wait for him to reply. I'll move on to another question while I wait for him to reply. Hi, Lisa. Sometimes in deep meditation, there is such a clear realization that nothing is happening and nothing has ever happened. Hard to explain. But the feeling is so potent, so potent, and I'm left as an endless wave of love. Can you speak of this? That's so beautiful. Yeah, that's who you are, is no thing and everything. And the everything side, this is Nisargadatta Maharaj. He says, to know I am nothing is wisdom. To know I am love is everything. So yeah, it produces, when there is awakening experiences, it does produce a lot of waves of love through the body, which is an experience, so lots of waves of love and bliss, and that's really beautiful. But don't get attached to it, because the love is beyond all that. There is a love that is so subtle. Like, yeah. Just waiting. I can't listen and call. Okay. James. Yeah, it's okay, the listening and calling thing, because hello, let me just check that it's going. Yeah, it's going in. Because we just speak through Skype, and like YouTube is in the past anyway, so you can't like watch the video in time. Yeah.
YouTube, and I'll watch it back in the past, and it will be.
Yeah, you do. You're watching me for 40 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Hang on.
Okay.
So nice. How can I help you today?
Yes, I just wanted to ask a question really about which is a topic that people don't really talk about, which is like sort of post-awakening integration.
Yeah.
With non-duality. So like coming to realize the self.
Yeah.
But then integrating that into the world that you know, like for me, it's like waking up and seeing that I am of nothing.
Yeah.
Is a shock.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like integrating that into what would otherwise have been a life of going along believing everything, you know, as in the way that you were describing earlier.
Yeah.
At the start of the video.
Yeah. So when you say awakening, is do you mean, like, because everyone says different things for awakening? So,
yeah, sure.
So is it like a recognition of something, or is it like an energetic shift?
It's almost paradoxical, that recognition and a shift, because it seems to me like there's whilst there's an intellectual recognition, there needs to be that energetic change, you know.
Yeah.
Because for you know, as a lot of your listeners like suffer with depression, and that's definitely sort of in the background, and you know, the quarantine was.
Can I just ask you not to mention? I know this sounds like I'm really paranoid, but just if we just try and talk around these words that's happening in our society at the moment, because Google suppresses the videos. So if they have an algorithm that goes through the video and then suppress it if you mention these things. So just call it the C thing, and then like the Q thing.
All right.
That sounds terrible. The C thing.
This thing has faced us all. With the you know, life has just taken it out of our human conditioning terms. You know, and so it's like. For everyone, there's a no matter what level, you know, again, words. This is just words. No matter what level of understanding a person is at, there's been a shift in what was previously what they called their lives or thought of their lives to be. And so like for me, there's a feeling of being much overdue. Sort of need to realize this, or dropping into this, so
and did it happen? Realize it recently, this awakening or this shift, or was it a gradual thing? Or
no, I think it's been years in the making, really. You know, like from meditation experiences and so on, but it's there's been a lot of clinging and depression, and a feeling that I didn't really realize that was in the background, which is actually, when it comes down to it, it's like a fear of life. You know, that's a real childhood fear of not, which has been, that is the conditioning of not being made to not feel safe in the world.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's where this division has been coming from.
Yeah. And when you said about speaking about like the post-awakening, like in what terms, in what regards did you mean? Like in what way is it affecting you at the moment?
I think I remember I've watched a video of yours that was talking about isolation.
Yeah.
And not needing to isolate. That's been a condition of mine. I've got, stretched so far into being alone, meditating, that there's always a tipping point where actually you need, like, the need to go out and to live.
Yeah.
So that's the, and of course this time that we're all going through has kind of inculcated that retraction.
Yeah.
Because it's like now there's the feeling to kind of go out and
you can't.
Yeah. And it's not the same talking to people on sorry, being on your stream. It's not. It's just there's no. We are social creatures.
Yeah. And are you totally alone in the incubation period?
No, I got no, with my dog and my girlfriend.
Yeah.
So.
And you're in the UK. Are you able to go out walking?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Walking and cycling. Because I'm from Cambridge. That's a big thing here.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't realise how I'm in Germany, and so we're also on the same program. We can cycle and we can walk, and then there's people in Italy and in Spain, and I didn't realise that they're only allowed to go out for shopping. I thought they were still allowed to go out for short walks. So that's pretty intense. Like just going out shopping and then it makes quite a difference being able to go out walking once a day, or cycling once a day. So it's not quite as fully intense as it is for some people. But yeah, it depends on what level we speak on, because on the level which might not be the level you want to speak about, so on the level of non-duality, it's absolutely no issue if you're alone for years or you're with people. Like from non-duality's perspective, there's that freedom that's there all the time, and it really doesn't matter. But then on the human level, all of us have different dynamics and different chakras that are lighting up in different ways, and we have different conditioning. All of us have specific conditioning, and I would say all of us have that conditioning that you need to be wary of life because it will come and get you. It will do things to you. And that is a chakra problem. And sometimes what we do when we've got that chakra problem and when we get into spirituality is we easily go into isolation. So we easily detach from the world. And on the level of that chakra, it's another illusion, and we tell ourselves that it's spirituality. It's another idea that we get engrossed into, and it's actually following that chakra habit. It's not. It feels like it might be the right thing, but it's not actually really questioning that chakra habit. And I'm not sure which chakra it is for you. I would suspect that's more than likely the heart or the solar plexus. I don't know if you've felt in your body where that arises, that feeling of being scared of life.
It's the solar plexus.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah, it's that contraction feeling.
Yeah. That other people or other things are going to hurt you. And if you don't know,
but it's even though this is the problem with the intellect is there's no way of addressing it with that.
Yeah, no.
It's just has to be seen, felt ultimately.
And you could, for years, I'm sure, with you and like I did as well, you didn't notice that that was playing. Like, so you could easily tell yourself a spiritual story that you're avoiding people because they're unspiritual or they've got bad energies or they're difficult. So it can become, it's very subtle, this feeling that can be really deep, and it isn't intellectual, it's an energetic, it's totally unconscious, like energetic bodily response that when it goes out and it's in front of people or it's doing things, particular things in life, it feels like something is going to attack you, like something is going to hurt you. But it's very subtle, it's not like you're in full-blown panic, it's like a bodily feeling, so it makes you withdraw from people and from life. And it's just, it's not, there's no easy solution to it, like it's just giving it time and space and not letting it dictate your experience. When it does dictate your experience, it can come, you can get depression, anger, lack of energy. Like, so it's almost, it's challenging it. So that chakra is depression. It is a sense of stuckness. It is a feeling of being caged. It can also be a suicidal feeling, like a sense that you want to die. Really what it is that you, because that chakra is this feeling of being caged, it's like, it's the feeling of wanting to die or wanting to escape it or escape people is actually, you're trying to get out of that cage, that tightness that it's making you feel. And it's just recognizing it and seeing that it's absolutely not true. So when you go out with people and you're having you're having that feeling that you want to go or you want to leave or that you don't want to do it, it's just seeing it for what it is. But I can get activated in that area around paperwork. That sounds really crazy, but I was very badly dyslexic as a child, and so sometimes like paperwork and things like authority, so like when you're doing business or something, this can sometimes be daunting for me, and it makes me want to retract and not do it. And I think that when you're open, life naturally puts these situations in front of you which makes you do it. And because you become so conscious of your body, like I can see when my body begins to close down to something. And so it's seeing that it's not actually the item, it's not actually the paperwork, it's that your body's closing down. And that if you close down to it and don't do it, then you'll never progress in that area. So it will end up revalidating that chakra. And I think anyone that has dyslexia, so you're saying you do, tends to have, well, I think a lot of people have problems in the solar plexus, but tend to have these issues more intensely sometimes because your whole schooling experience was, you can't do it, even though it wasn't, they're consciously saying that, it was unconsciously being told to you that you can't do it, that you'll be wrong, that you'll do things wrong.
Yeah.
There's also exercises, like energetic exercises that you can do for the chakras. You can find them on my website under references, like Osho exercises and breathing exercises that can help shift the energy in the chakra. So when you do have that coming up, so if you've gone out and done something and then felt that feeling intensely in your body, you can do these exercises which help move it through the body. But it's also important to see the non-dual side, that in the end, pain or pleasure, so if the chakras turn into pain, like the sense that you can't do it, that it's not your freedom and it's not your cage, that there's simply motions appearing and disappearing in this freedom of what you are. So it's holding those both those perspectives.
Sorry, can you expand on that?
Yeah, like when you're challenging your chakras and when you're reconditioning yourself, it's easy to get into a seeking mentality and believing that your chakras are the problem and that they need to be reconditioned, and that will bring you freedom when you decondition yourself enough or when you release enough emotions. And in the end, that also isn't freedom. That tends to come with the path of non-duality, that you investigate feelings, that you release conditions, that you release old ways of being and you change. But it's not your freedom. Your freedom is always this moment. It's always beyond pleasure and pain. That no feeling, thought or experience will ever give you what you truly look for. That it's always found right here in the experiencer, not in the experience. And it's kind of like a delicate balance to hold the two, to really know that part of non-duality, that part of yourself that's always free, and then at the same time allowing your body to move towards expansion gently. So our bodies naturally want to move towards expansion. They naturally want to get rid of old issues, but it's not forcing it or believing that once you do a certain amount of chakra exercises, or you challenge yourself, or you change yourself on the human level, that you'll arrive at a place called freedom. That's another illusion. Your freedom is always right here in the experience. It's that which is experiencing that what's happening. It's that which never leaves.
I think the I need to just sit with that more.
Yeah.
Because this is I suppose the trap that I'm in, this conceptual trap. It's like, well, okay, so like the Neo-Advaita stuff is like, there's nothing, which I do understand. It's like there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do. But yet there is this body and this mind appearing, and it needs to take the dog for a walk and brush its teeth, and so so you're saying it's like the being in a middle place.
It's a delicate balance, because your natural feeling on the human level is always to expand. So, and that's a balanced feeling, and life is reflecting that. So what I mean by that is that the impulse of the body is to follow pleasure, not seeking pleasure, just this open pleasure. And the way that it moves through that pleasure will always be this feeling of expansion. So say, if you're thinking of writing a poem, what will happen is a feeling of pleasure will arise in your body, and there'll be a feeling of expansion of thinking about it, and then you'll write it down. Or say if you're a painter or an artist in some way. And so our body is designed to move towards pleasure, which is an expansive feeling. What happens is society often trains us to act out of pain. So it trains us to act out of fear. So you have to do this, otherwise bad things are going to happen to you. And it's actually like the wrong way to...
Lacking, kind of.
Yeah, like a lacking way. And that's okay that it conditioned us like that. But the best way in which I think to educate a child is to follow child's play. So the child will naturally move towards a pleasure which is expansive. So it'll move towards that which opens its heart, which it loves, basically. So that is kind of pleasure. The ultimate pleasure is this sense of love. Like when I was a child, so I'm a storyteller by trade, and what I mean by that is that I love telling stories. I'm a triple Gemini, and Geminis are known for being like the communicator. So even in teaching, I'm telling stories. Like I'm communicating you through telling stories. Like I'm not communicating you through singing non-duality. I'm telling you different stories. Like so everything's a story, just by me saying there is a bed. That's a story, and I'm communicating non-duality through storytelling. And I also tell make-up stories, like I like writing fiction. And when I was younger, I always moved towards that. I always moved towards play, which involved making up stories. Like so, I used to have like surveillance families. Do you remember them? Surveillance families. You may be younger than me. And like these little toys, and I used to always be making up little different stories for them. And I used to have a hamster, and I used to make up worlds for my hamster to go through and tell a story. And that was heaven for me. I never had to put effort into it. I just naturally did it. And if I'd been taught in that way, I wasn't taught in that way, what the teacher would have done, so they would have homed in on what I loved and supported me to follow that. And I think that's the way in which we should educate kids. Not short-term pleasure, like going on to lots of like YouTube videos or something, or flicking through the internet, but this underlying love that we will naturally, all of us will naturally have. And this is how I believe that we function on a human level. If we weren't conditioned to be somebody and to function out of fear, is that our bodies will naturally move towards pleasure. And I believe that moving towards pleasure is a feeling of expansion, and that the whole of life is kind of always expanding, like evolution is expanding, the complexities of evolution is expanding, the universe is constantly expanding, our ideas as humanity is expanding, our abilities are expanding, the internet is expanding, like everything is always growing. Like, I know you could say that things die as well, but so say if you looked at a tree, like it grows and then it dies, but what's always happening is the tree is evolving, so it's expanding to be a better and better and more successful tree. Mm-hmm. And this is how I feel that the balanced way of moving through this life is. And when you have an awakening, so your natural essence, consciousness, is also this feeling of expansiveness and a feeling of endless possibilities. And I feel that when you have these awakenings, then your chakras want to vibrate more and more with that. And so they'll naturally find blockages and want to release those blockages and want to change that way of thinking. So when you've got like an idea that's coming from fear, so maybe like socializing is fearful for you and going out into the world and doing things is fearful for you, your body mind is naturally going to want to challenge that because it's out of line with your true essence. So once you get into awakening, it will want to challenge that, but you just won't necessarily see it in a logical way. Like you'll naturally be drawn to expose that and to go deeper into that and to recondition it. But what happens when you're waking up and going between waking up and still seeking is that the seeker believes that pleasure will bring you freedom, but pleasure will never bring you freedom. Like, so then it tries, like it over tries, and it goes, it's no longer this natural expansion, this natural expansiveness. It's like this trying really hard. It's like when I told that story about me as a child being drawn towards stories and storytelling, and it was just a natural feeling of love. That's in harmony with my true nature. But when the teacher is like forcing you to do things, that's more like the seeker, like you've got to do your maths, you've got to do this. It's more like teaching you to go out of yourself and to seek to do things. You've got to do this because otherwise the monster will come for you and you'll be in trouble, and then that encourages seeking. So when you're waking up, it's like this natural balance comes into play of you releasing that old way of being, that seeking way of being. But what can overtake is that you get into your mind that you've got to release all your issues in order to be free. And so therefore it becomes like an effort. You've got to get rid of your things, your issues, and you've got to do it. And if you don't achieve it, you won't be free. Whereas the truth is that your freedom is always here. And that is just a natural progression that will happen with this subject, unconditioning yourself and reconditioning yourself. So it is like this gentle balance, but it's not really even your balance. It's something that will naturally happen to you. Like even in us having this conversation, it's something that happened, like that's being exposed more and more. Sorry, I just went off on one. I don't know if you can still follow.
Yeah, no, so exactly, yeah. It's just it's happening. It's as you explained, like a retraction and then an expansion as this conditioning falls away. And really, I'm just watching it.
And it will happen. Like life is your teacher. Like everything that you experience in your life will push you beyond your conditioning and your way of being, as long as as long as there's an open-mindedness there to seeing that, to being open to that. Like everything becomes your teacher, like just in the smallest things, as in like you order a pizza and the pizza doesn't come, like, and you keep phoning them and ordering them. Like this is your teacher. Like that could trigger the solar plexus. Like that could trigger that failure thing from school, that sense that you can't do it.
But I mean, just when you say that, it's a sort of gratefulness there. Because I mean, I've obviously spent a long time doing this seeking and listening to non-duality, but and different teachers and different styles and everything, but like life is ultimately the teacher, if you can call it that. But
and you begin to see it more and more, that like in Course in Miracles they say it's like seeing the coincidences or seeing the miracles, in the sense of when you really look from a bird's eye point of view, you'll see that life is always reflecting back to you and giving you the opportunity to overcome your obstacles, like that which holds you back.
I'm really at the minute. I'm thinking, when fear comes up, to kind of see it in a different way, and see these things in a different light, which is love, as opposed to seeking them gone.
And it is, in the end, like fear is just a visceral experience. I say just, I don't mean to diminish your experience, but it's just chemicals flowing through your system. Like so fear comes and there's like a shocking experience and your body is panicked. As long as there isn't too much an attachment to the stories or what you're afraid of, then it will just pass through again. Like it's not... Fear always presents itself like it's so serious because it means the death of you, but it's actually not so serious. Like it has a limit on it. We always imagine that fear could get worse, like that if you don't do this, like the fear can get worse. But I've found from my experiences that fear has a limit, and like it's the same fear. Like when you think you're going to die, like you're walking along and you have like paranoia and you think something's going to kill you or you're going to die, and that fear begins. It's the same as actually when you're just about to die. Like fear has this limit on it. It's not like an endless thing where you can go into infinite depths of fear. It's like an ejection of energy that goes into your body, and then it stops at some point. And I think part of the paranoia with fear is that it's going to get so bad it's going to kill me, like it's going to overwhelm me. Which is quite it doesn't quite work in our minds like that. It's like we feel fear and then we want to run away from the object that we're afraid of, which is very natural. And part of that running away from that object is that the fear will be worse if the object comes and gets you, but it's actually not. Your imagination of fear and the bad thing actually happening are at the same level. like fear, it presents itself more worse than it actually is. I know fear can be really awful. Like it can be such a strong experience, and it comes with so many things, like in the sense that society doesn't allow you to express it. So if you feel afraid of something, everyone shames you for feeling afraid of it. So you have to kind of hide that you're afraid of something.
Mm. That definitely seems to be the sort of male conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's maybe easier. It's a lot easier as a woman to be afraid of something. Admit it.
Not necessarily say that, but
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sorry, just without cutting you.
Yeah. That's a pleasure, James.
All right, yeah, I shall leave you there.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for the call.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, that's the end for this evening. Yes, thank you everybody that participated. Sorry I didn't get to answer everybody's question, but you can write again next Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Have a beautiful week. Lots of love. Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir.